let's move on to the second part. This was a very nice segue to the second part of the panel session on connecting engineering and business. So I believe you already answered the question of how we can turn an idea of a product or a prototype into a viable business case. But I have another question on this. So what if you have some technical idea, not necessarily about a product, and you want to turn that into a business case? How can we bridge the gap from engineering to commercialization?
So bridging the gap between engineering to commercialization. So first thing is you need to be absolutely clear about the technicalities of the product that you're trying to deliver to your customers. All right. Understand what are the resources that are required for you to ensure that the product is successful, can sustain for the intended number of intended period. For example, this product I want my customers to use for at least 2 years. Then I can plan for an upgrade, or then they can perhaps buy another version of that product. All right. So understanding the technicalities, like how frequently a customer might use that product. For example, everyone has heard of this sponge called Scrub Daddy, right? So, or any basic sponge that you use to wash dishes. Those are the products that are used frequently. It's not something that you buy once and then use it for 2 years. All right. This is something that you buy frequently after it wears off. So is that kind of a product, or if it's a software product, like you use it for 1 year. So understanding the resources that you need to build that, and then from resources you can break down what amount of what is the cost of building that particular product. So then this is how you converge or move into the business side. How much do you need to make that product, and that can give you an estimate of how do you need to sell it for the concept, like the break-even concept that you may have learned in this course, right? So all of this is connected from technical to business. You go from technicals, then you figure out what are the granular details about the technicalities. Then you convert those granular technicalities into the cost, and then you figure out the business side, all the financials, like cost of making, suppliers, distribution, and all of that.
My next question is about a non-technical skill that is very important for engineers when writing business plans. So my question is, what's the role of market research in a business plan, and how can engineers approach it?
As we discussed about it, market research is going to be a critical part of any business plan. And the reason is that market research can help you to cover some important aspects of the business plan. Just to mention a few, first of all, it gives you some understanding of the market sizing, which shows you the opportunity size that exists there based on your target market, right? How many population is there for your product or for your services. Then you can also learn about their pain points. The most important thing, I guess, is to understand if your target market is struggling or having some issues with anything when using some similar products or services. So with market research, you can understand that. You can also learn about the pricing. So how much money they are willing to pay for your product and services, okay? So these kind of items usually is covered with the market research. And the way we do market research is in two different approaches. One is mostly what we call secondary research, and that's exactly using existing data and reports. You might find a report from a government agency, you can find a report from a competitors, and you can read those reports definitely and learn more about the market or the industry. But beside that, we have primary research, which means that you go by yourself and try to find the data through interviews, for example, in-depth interviews, focus groups, distributing surveys, and all those things. So hopefully by doing these things, you can have a better understanding of what's the market.
All right. Okay, let's continue. So we have a question from one of the students, please.
Yeah, my name's Sean. I'm a third-year industrial engineering student. I have a question about kind of market research and just business plan in general. Obviously, you talked about how there's like a roadmap that you set out for X number of years. But I'm kind of wondering, like, as you probably do research while the business is being executed, what would be a catalyst for redrafting a business plan, and what might the determining factors be that would require you to set out a new one while the business is already, like, I guess, in operations?
So thank you, Sean, for the question. So what I understand, you want to know what happens if we have already a business, right? And how we draft a business plan if the business is ongoing.
Yeah, like what would be like a catalyst while the business is already in operation for redrafting a business plan?
Yeah, and usually it happens, especially at corporations level, because honestly, again, it depends who you are preparing the business plan for. Sometimes you are the founder and the business is at the earliest stage, like you're just making the business by yourself. But usually at corporations, the things that you mentioned happen there. Like for example, at Manulife, we have so many ongoing businesses, and sometimes we need to refine them, or we need to define a new division or a new sector, entering into a new market, a new country. And with these, again, I guess the patterns and the rules are pretty much similar, but we have to be careful about the markets, the new needs in this new market, and defining all those market research requirements, right? So we have lots of advisors, for example, in our corporation that help us to figure out those, and in order to find a solution if we are going to change any part of the business.
A lot of companies, like, market is dynamic, it's continuously changing, upgrading, So a lot of companies, they have their own marketing departments, and the goal of this department, or the objectives of this department, is to ensure that the product stays up to date with the evolving or changing market. So you have a dedicated department for that, and that's where they recommend you to either speed things up or slow things down, or maybe just put on more research into that product so that your product can effectively sustain in this dynamically changing market. So you have people, like in a business, you have people or advisors, as Amir said, who can guide you, make strategic decisions to ensure that your product stays in that changing market or sustains beyond that.